Okay, in the next two videos we're going to be looking at the role of markets, so free markets without government intervention, and how they can be used to achieve the goals of equity and efficiency. So the first video will be looking at efficiency, the second video equity. So some possible questions you might receive are things like, discuss whether a free or unregulated market would promote allocative efficiency. In your answer, refer to merit and demerit goods. We'll talk about what they are in this video. Explain the benefits of a perfectly competitive market for both technical and allocative efficiency, and explain the costs and benefits of a free market for equity. All potential questions related to equity. So with market capitalist societies, they rely on some inequality in order to spur entrepreneurial activity and economic growth. So economies need the profit motive, they need the incentive for wealth and income in order to have that benefits for entrepreneurial activity and growth. Humans need the lure of increased wealth and success in order to have the incentive to gain skills, to be entrepreneurial, to think of new innovative ideas, in the hope that they will help to boost their incomes and make them more wealthy. This innovation can lead to cheaper and better quality goods as well, or goods, and services, helping to boost economic growth. So market capitalist societies are good for economic growth. They're good for efficiency because people have that profit motive to get better skills, to make them more productive, to think of innovative ideas, to be more entrepreneurial. So in a market, goods and services in higher demand relative to supply generally lead to higher prices and profits. Now the good thing for efficiency, and this is hard to step out, but in a free market, self-interested, profit-motivated producers are going to shift their resources, their land, their labour and their capital to the production of goods and service where they can generate the higher relative profits. So when there's higher relative prices, because if that's caused by increased demand, this acts as a signal for producers that, right, that's what consumers want, we're going to shift resources into that area because we're going to generate more profits. And that's good for allocative efficiency because it generally leads to consumers getting what they want. Okay, so producers want to produce what consumers want, unlike like a planned economy where they might set a certain amount and people might miss out. In a market economy, generally producers will produce more of a good if there's high demand, and that's good for allocative efficiency because that's assuring that people get what they want. So a higher relative price will act as a motivator for self-interested, profit-motivated individuals to shift land, labour and capital resources into the production of those goods and services, therefore more effectively meeting consumers' desires. If there's no government intervention, the free market will produce goods and services based on the wants and needs of consumers. That's the benefit for allocative efficiency. It's not all good, but it is good because consumers get what they want. Demand and supply generally achieve allocative efficiency as scarce resources are generally devoted to where, not there, they are most in demand. Goods that are valued by consumers. This ensures resources are allocated to meet consumers' wants and needs. The desire to maximise profit leads to increased allocative efficiency. It also leads to increased technical efficiency. Because firms are profit motivated, they have a high incentive to keep their prices down, to remain competitive, so they're always looking for better ideas, better production techniques, better ways to outdo their competitors. Otherwise, they may go out of business and someone else may undercut their costs. So market economies are also good at achieving technical efficiency because there's a high incentive to keep prices down by being productive, and that leads to increased output per unit of input and increased technical efficiency. Good for allocative efficiency because they produce what society wants. Good for technical efficiency because they have a high incentive to keep their prices down. Unfortunately though, the market is not always good for efficiency, and that's when market failures come in. So there's instances where the price mechanism or demand and supply do not optimise society's wants. Market failures occur when the free market over or under allocates resources to certain types of production which detract from society's living standards. So market failure is when the free market, with no government intervention, fails to allocate resources in a manner that maximises the welfare or living standards of society. Examples of that would be some undesirable goods, demerit goods, which is things like alcohol and cigarettes, are over-allocated. So alcohol, cigarettes, pollution, they're all over-allocated because the third-party costs, so the third-party costs of alcohol might be that, you might be more likely to get into a fight, which might hurt other people. You may be more likely to drink drive, which can hurt a third party. You may get sick, and therefore there's a more strain on public health care, which hurts people because they have to pay more tax. They are all examples of third-party costs. With cigarettes, it might be passive smoking. And pollution that causes climate change, the third-party costs can be rising sea levels, airborne diseases, all these things that will impact future generations. So free markets are not good for efficiency because they sometimes lead to undesirable goods, demerit goods being over-allocated. They also lead to some desirable goods like merit and public goods. Merit goods are things that are under-allocated in a free market, and they're things like education and healthcare. That because they've got positive externalities, there's the benefits for third parties. They often under-allocated because people don't consider those third-party benefits. So for education, those third-party benefits may be that in the future you pay more tax. It may be that you're less likely to be involved in crime. If you vaccinate your children, that's a good example. They're less likely to infect other children. That's an example of a third-party benefit. The difference between public and merit goods, merit goods are excludable, so you can exclude other people from using them. So education is excludable because you can make people pay to get educated or pay to go to a school, where public goods are not excludable. So things like the light from a lighthouse, you can't stop people from using them. But the key thing you recognise is that markets can be inefficient because they over-allocate towards demerit goods and they under-allocate towards public goods and merit goods because they don't take into account the externalities associated with these transactions. Other problems, there's an over-allocation of resources to the production of demerit goods and under-allocation to public goods and merit goods because the unregulated market can lead to undesirable allocation of resources. Sometimes competition between firms can also be weak and prices can be quite high, particularly when there's monopolies or oligopolies. So sometimes that can lead to higher prices. Generally, unregulated markets lead to higher economic growth because there's no regulation stopping production, like carbon taxes and things like that, that make us less competitive, but they can have negative implications for efficiency as well. We'll talk about equity in the next video.